I never imagined that my life would be turned upside down like this. My name is Nina, and I'm a 38-year-old nurse living in Austin, Texas. It's been a whirlwind of emotions over the past few weeks, and I find myself compelled to share my story. I need to make sense of it all, if that's even possible. It started with an email, just an email. Mark, my husband of 15 years, a freelance graphic designer, had always been somewhat unpredictable. But nothing could have prepared me for the cold, detached message he sent. He wrote that he had fallen in love with someone else and was leaving us, me and our 12-year-old daughter, Sophia. His words cut deep. I'm starting a new life with her. I'm taking the car. You'll need to deal with the debt. The car in question wasn't just any car. It was a luxury vehicle we had bought on loan in my name. We had taken out a $40,000 loan to get it, hoping it would bring some excitement into our lives. Now, it seemed to symbolize everything that had gone wrong. I was left with the burden of repaying the debt, while Mark, it seemed, would drive away with the one thing I had hoped would make our lives better. I remember the shock washing over me like a tidal wave. My mind raced. How could he do this to us? I tried calling him, sending texts, even reaching out to mutual friends, but he was nowhere to be found. Every attempt to contact him was met with silence. It was as if he had vanished into thin air, leaving only his betrayal behind. To make matters worse, I discovered that the divorce papers we had discussed during one of our more heated arguments were missing. I had been so focused on trying to keep our family together, trying to make things work, that I had put off dealing with those papers. Now, it seemed Mark had taken them, perhaps as part of his departure, leaving me not only heartbroken but also financially strained. Sophia, my bright and observant daughter, noticed that something was wrong. She'd always been perceptive for her age, and I knew I couldn't hide the truth from her forever. She saw the sleepless nights and the growing stress etched on my face. One evening, she approached me with that look of concern only a child who truly cares can muster. "Mom, where's Dad? Why isn't he coming back?" The moment those words left her lips, I felt my heart crack a little more. I sat her down and told her everything. I explained how Mark had left us and how we were in a difficult situation, both emotionally and financially. Her response surprised me. She took it remarkably well, as if she had been expecting it all along. She remained calm, her maturity in the face of this crisis both comforting and heartbreaking. I tried to hold myself together for Sophia's sake, but the weight of everything was crushing me. My work as a nurse, which had always been a source of pride and purpose, started to feel like an unbearable burden. One day, while I was at the hospital, the stress became too much. I collapsed in the break room, my vision blurring, my heart racing. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed, surrounded by doctors and nurses. They told me I needed immediate surgery for a serious illness that had been exacerbated by my stress. As I lay there recovering, I faced another blow. I checked my savings account and found that the $25,000 I had diligently saved was now reduced to a mere $42.10. Mark had withdrawn every last penny without my knowledge. It was a cruel blow, making me feel even more helpless. But Sophia, even in her young age, was not one to be easily defeated. Determined to support me, she came up with a plan. She suggested we use a GPS app on our phones to track down Mark. Her idea was simple yet brilliant, and it gave me a sliver of hope. Together, we began to take action. Sophia's resourcefulness and quick thinking were astonishing, and they provided me with a renewed sense of determination. 3 days later, Mark contacted me, pleading for help. He was being questioned by the police about the stolen luxury car. The irony of it all was not lost on me. With Sophia by my side, I agreed to meet him at a nearby forest park where he had been camping. Lydia, Mark's mistress, was with him, her presence adding another layer of complexity to an already fraught situation. Meeting Mark at the forest park was a surreal experience. The park's serene surroundings felt like a cruel contrast to the chaos that had enveloped my life. As Sophia and I approached the meeting spot, I could see Mark's luxury car parked under the shade of tall trees, its gleaming surface now a symbol of everything that had gone wrong. Lydia, Mark's mistress, was beside him. The tension in the air was palpable. Sophia, ever the observant one, squeezed my hand for reassurance. Her courage in this whole ordeal had been a constant source of strength for me. I took a deep breath and walked toward Mark, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Mark," I said, my voice steady but firm, "I've come to get the car back and the money you stole." Mark looked disheveled and worn, a stark contrast to the confident image he had always projected. His eyes darted nervously between Sophia and me. "Nina, please, let's just talk," he said, his voice lacking the authority it once had. Lydia, standing beside him with an air of indifference, crossed her arms and watched the exchange with an almost casual disdain. "You don't need to be so confrontational, Nina," she said with a smirk. "Mark's left you, and you should just accept it." I could barely contain my anger. "Accept it?" I shot back. "You have no idea what it's like to be left in the lurch, burdened with debt and stolen money. And you, Lydia, are you really that smug?" Sophia, despite her young age, decided to step in. "Why did you leave us, Dad?" she asked, her voice steady but filled with hurt. "Why did you take everything and leave Mom in such a bad situation?" Mark seemed taken aback by Sophia's directness. "Sophia, honey, it's complicated," he stammered, trying to avoid her gaze. "I made mistakes, and I'm sorry for that." Lydia, clearly feeling defensive, interjected. "Mark left because he was unhappy. And I'm here now. He chose me because I'm better for him." Sophia's eyes narrowed. "Better? You mean to tell me you're okay with what he did to us? Leaving us without a penny and taking our car?" The confrontation was heating up. Mark's face grew red, and he turned to Lydia, his frustration evident. "Lydia, this isn't helping," he said, his voice rising. "I made mistakes, but I didn't expect things to spiral out of control like this." At that moment, I revealed the card I had up my sleeve. I had already contacted Lydia's parents, hoping they would provide some accountability. They arrived at the scene, visibly angry and disapproving. Lydia's mother and father marched up to their daughter, their faces flushed with embarrassment and anger. "Lydia," her mother exclaimed, her voice cracking with disappointment. "How could you be involved in something like this? Look at the mess you've caused." Lydia's father added, "Mark, we trusted you. We thought you were a decent man. How could you do this?" The public shaming seemed to get under Mark's skin. The atmosphere was charged, and it became clear that Mark was feeling the full weight of his actions. Lydia's parents demanded explanations, and Mark, clearly rattled, started to falter under their scrutiny. Just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get any more chaotic, the turning point arrived. Mark received a phone call that would shift the dynamics of the encounter. Lydia's pregnancy had been a topic of gossip, but now it was about to become central to the confrontation. Mark's face turned ashen as he listened to the caller. He turned to Lydia, his voice trembling. "The baby is not mine, is it?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Lydia's face fell. The truth about the pregnancy, which had been a source of tension and speculation, was now out in the open. Lydia's face turned pale as she struggled to respond. "Mark, I didn't mean for it to come out like this," she stammered. The realization hit Mark like a freight train. The child Lydia was carrying wasn't his, and the timeline didn't match up with their relationship. It was clear that Mark had been deceived, and the magnitude of his betrayal began to sink in. His face twisted in shock and anger, and he started to confront Lydia about the lies. You lied to me about everything, Mark said, his voice breaking. How could you? The argument escalated quickly, with accusations flying in every direction. Lydia's parents were now fully involved, demanding answers and making it clear that they were ashamed of their daughter's actions. Mark and Lydia's argument grew louder, drawing the attention of parkgoers who were now witnessing the public unraveling of their lives. As the confrontation reached its peak, police officers arrived at the scene, summoned by the commotion. They began to question everyone involved. It was clear that this was no longer just a family dispute. It had become a matter of legal concern. In the chaos, I felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. Mark and Lydia's fate was now in the hands of the authorities. The stolen car and the missing money were not just personal grievances anymore. They were legal issues that needed to be resolved. I knew this was only the beginning of a long road ahead. Sophia, though shaken, stood by my side. Her bravery and determination had been a beacon of strength throughout this ordeal. As we prepared to face whatever came next, I knew that the journey was far from over. But at that moment, amidst the confusion and upheaval, I couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. The first step toward reclaiming our lives had been taken. The aftermath of the confrontation at the park was both chaotic and revealing. With Mark and Lydia in police custody, Sophia and I found ourselves in the midst of a whirlwind of legal and emotional turmoil. The park, once a place of serenity, had become a symbol of our shattered lives. In the following days, I busied myself with filing reports for the stolen luxury car and the missing money. The police were efficient, but the process was grueling. Every detail had to be documented, every piece of evidence presented. I felt overwhelmed but knew that we had to move forward, for Sophia's sake and mine. Mark's legal troubles were extensive. The theft of the car and the money had serious repercussions. Lydia's betrayal, coupled with the revelation of her pregnancy, compounded the mess. Mark was charged with theft and fraud, and the legal system began to take its course. I had to prepare myself for a courtroom battle that I had never imagined I would face. Sophia, despite her age, showed remarkable resilience. She took on more responsibilities at home, helping with chores and staying on top of her schoolwork. Her maturity in handling the situation was a constant source of inspiration for me. Whenever I felt overwhelmed, her calm and composed demeanor reminded me of why we had to fight through this. One afternoon, as I was sorting through paperwork related to the case, the phone rang. It was my lawyer with news that Mark had reached out, asking for a settlement. He was willing to return the stolen car and some of the money. The offer, though a relief, was a reminder of the complications ahead. Mark's attempt to make amends was a small step, but didn't erase the emotional and financial damage he had caused. Sophia and I discussed the offer. She was cautious but hopeful. "Mom, do you think it's enough?" she asked, her eyes filled with concern. "I don't know, honey," I admitted. "But it's a start. We have to see this through." The day of the court hearing arrived, and the courtroom was packed. Mark and Lydia were present, their faces a mix of shame and defiance. As the proceedings began, I felt a wave of anxiety, but also a sense of determination. The truth of what had happened was laid bare, and the courtroom was filled with the raw emotions of everyone involved. Mark was ordered to pay $25,000 in damages and $600 per month in child support for Sophia. The court also ruled that the stolen car should be returned to me, and I could use the proceeds from its sale to help clear the auto loan. The judgment felt like a small victory, but it was bittersweet. The financial relief was significant, but the emotional scars were still fresh. As I left the courthouse, I felt a mixture of exhaustion and relief. The legal battle was over, but the journey to rebuild our lives was just beginning. Sophia and I had to focus on healing and moving forward. In the days that followed, I sold the luxury car to settle the remaining debt. The process was straightforward, but it symbolized the end of a chapter and the beginning of a new one. I also focused on regaining my health, which had suffered during this ordeal. The stress and strain had taken a toll, but with Sophia's support and the resolution of our legal issues, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Sophia continued to excel in her studies and helped out around the house. Her resilience had been a guiding light throughout this challenging period. We slowly began to rebuild our lives, taking each day as it came. The support from friends and family also played a crucial role in our recovery. As we looked ahead, we knew that the scars of the past would remain, but we were determined to build a brighter future. The strength of our bond and our ability to face adversity together gave us the courage to move forward. The road to healing was long, but with each step, we grew stronger. In the end, it was clear that betrayal had tested us, but our resilience and the strength of our family had seen us through. The journey had been arduous, but Sophia and I emerged from it with a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment to creating a new, hopeful chapter in our lives. The months following the court case were filled with a mix of healing and rebuilding. Life slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the echoes of our past troubles were never far from our minds. Sophia and I continued to adjust to our new reality, finding strength in our bond and in the support we received from those around us. One evening, as I sat on the porch watching the sunset, Sophia joined me with a thoughtful expression. "Mom, do you ever think about what we've been through?" she asked quietly. I looked at her, seeing the mature young woman she was becoming. "Yes, Sophia, I think about it often," I replied. "But I also think about how far we've come. We faced a lot, but we faced it together." Sophia nodded. "It's strange to think that things could have been so different. But I'm glad we have each other." Her words were a reminder of how important our relationship had become through this ordeal. Despite everything, we had grown closer and learned to appreciate each other more deeply. In the weeks that followed, I focused on my recovery and on making our home a place of comfort and stability. The sale of the luxury car had cleared the remaining debt, and I was able to breathe a little easier financially. My health improved as I dedicated time to self-care and rebuilding my strength. Sophia's academic success continued to shine. She excelled in her studies, and her teachers praised her resilience and dedication. I was incredibly proud of her achievements, which seemed even more remarkable given the challenges she had faced. Her hard work and perseverance were a testament to her character. We started to make new plans for the future. With the debt cleared and a renewed sense of stability, I began considering how to create a positive and fulfilling life for us. We took small steps towards this new beginning, focusing on activities that brought us joy and relaxation. Weekend outings, family movie nights, and even a small vacation helped us rediscover the simple pleasures of life. One day, I received a letter from Mark's lawyer. It was a formal notice that Mark had fulfilled his financial obligations. The $600 monthly payments were set up, and while it wasn't a cure-all, it was a step towards ensuring Sophia's well-being. As I read the letter, I felt a sense of closure. The legal battles were behind us, and we could now focus on what truly mattered, our happiness and future. I shared the news with Sophia, who smiled with relief and contentment. In the end, our journey had been one of incredible hardship, but it was also one of growth and resilience. We had faced betrayal and adversity, but we had emerged stronger, with a renewed appreciation for the strength of our family bond. The support we received from friends, the legal resolution, and the commitment to rebuilding our lives had all contributed to our recovery. Sophia and I looked forward to the future with hope and optimism. The scars of the past would always be a part of us, but they no longer defined us. We were ready to embrace new opportunities and to continue building a life filled with love, trust, and joy. As we moved forward, we knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we had the strength to face them together. Our journey had taught us the importance of resilience, honesty, and the unwavering support of family. And with that knowledge, we stepped confidently into the future, ready to create new memories and to build a brighter, more hopeful life.